Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast with Robert Heyder. This is a no-fluff podcast where we dig deep into the journey of scaling your real estate investing and wholesaling business and discuss how to break into commercial real estate investing. Robert Heyder here with Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. For those who don't know me, I'll go through my journey a little bit here. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, lower middle class family, first member of my family to traditionally go to college. Out of college, I got into commercial real estate finance. It worked out really well. I was one of the youngest vice presidents of commercial real estate lending in St. Louis at the age of 25. During my time, I underwrote over $1 billion in commercial real estate deals. And then transitioned into full-time entrepreneurial real estate investing in 2013. When I got into real estate investing personally, I focused more on real estate rehabs, did some rentals and wholesales as I was trying to learn the wholesaling game. I quickly realized that the wholesaling side of the business was more scalable, focused on that heavy, and over the 6 years had exponential growth. In 2019, we will have purchased over 200 houses for wholesale, as well as running a real estate brokerage that'll do 60 million plus in transactions. We started and have since sold a residential property management company, and we've made a big transition into commercial real estate lending. Commercial real estate deals. We made a big transition into commercial real estate deals. We own and manage over 110,000 square feet of commercial space, as well as 60 plus residential doors. And the reason I go through all this for you guys is to get into the mission of this podcast, the real reason that I'm here. This is for next level thinkers. We're gonna be talking about the newest ideas, the most innovative stuff. We're gonna be talking about the 1% and 2% difference, the it factor, the edge, the stuff that really makes some investors great while other investors fail. We're gonna be digging deep into work-life balance, mindset. We're going to be having interviews with some of the top folks in the industry, both in the residential and commercial real estate investing sectors, as well as high-level finance guys, maybe even tech guys that have scaled big businesses. If you want to be the best investor that you can be, and you want to get opened up to folks that are doing huge things, how they think, how they make decisions, how they process data, you're in the right spot. We got Scott Oots today. It's going to be a hell of an episode. Just an absolute stud out of California, high margin wholesaler doing crazy things. This guy, he started less than 5 years ago and has scaled up to doing nearly 200 deals in 2019 in numerous states. He's a fantastic integrator, really takes action and gets into it. He talks about how quickly he started hiring, all of the pitfalls he had from hiring, and some of the great takeaways that he's learned since then. He really gets into the systems and processes, and talks about some really, really cool stuff and his growth in the passive income. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a fantastic episode, and I think you're going to enjoy it as much as I do. Sweet. All right. Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. Really, really excited to be here. We got Scott Oots out of California. Very, very happy to have you here. Thanks for coming on, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Well, obviously, we've known each other for a long time. I'm just super impressed at all the crazy things you've been able to do and how fast you've been able to scale. And, really, the level of growth, the leadership that you show is unbelievable. And one of the more unique things that people probably don't realize is like how much you give back. And, I look at that a couple different ways, but I look at it like some of the groups that we're on Facebook and super group that you run, and a lot of these different things. I just see you always in there providing feedback, providing content, helping people through problems. I think that's just so awesome, and that you actually, intentionally take time to work through that. So one, I'm going to give you praise for that. I think that's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Well, if you don't mind, let's just jump into it. Give me a little bit of information, kind of how you got started and what it looked like for you when you got started and what it looks like now.
Great. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. So 2015 was when I really jumped into this, and we're primarily wholesale in our business, and we've done some fix and flips, but typically stayed the wholesale route since day one. And had another business previously, was very bored with it, and it was a very repetitive business. and I was looking for something else. So I was actually going to go flip houses, maybe be a real estate agent, just try something different. And all of a sudden I heard a voice come from YouTube, and that was Mr. Sean Terry himself. And just something about the way he was talking just got my attention really quickly. And next thing I know, I was watching all these videos of his, and I'm like, this guy's got to be nuts, right? I mean, there's no way this is possible to go this route with real estate towards the wholesaling aspect of it. So I started researching it a little more, and then joined his Flip to Freedom Academy. And from that point, just realized kind of what was possible. We were buying houses at auctions previously. So originally I said I was going to take what he was teaching to continue to flip, but not buy at auctions anymore, and try to go out and market, get my own leads, and flip all the houses. Well, it works. We started getting so many leads in. I'm like, I can't buy all these houses. What do I do with these? And I'm like, you know what? He was talking about this wholesale thing. Let's check it out. So we started looking at it, and I actually went into a coaching program with him at the time and sat in his office for 2 days, shut down my other business, just jumped all in, and came back and just hit the ground running. And it was exciting. That was towards the end of 2015 that we did that. So we had a good maybe 2.5 months in 2015 that we were in business, and then 2016 just took off from day one. I mean, we had a good pipeline built by the end of December and hitting the ground running.
Man, that is so great. I think we met maybe in 16 at one of the Flip to Freedom events. And I think I'd seen you in a Facebook group or somewhere before online. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was just shocked. I was blown away. And I didn't realize Sean had that thing going on. It sounded like it was what you and Joe Taylor were kind of the two folks that he kind of rolled that out with.
I think Joe was the first and I was the last. So I don't know if we were just so good he didn't want to top it, or we were so bad he didn't want to do it again. I don't know. But yeah, me and Joe, I think, are the only two that went through that program. And I know it's time consuming. It definitely is. So when you're coaching, anyone's time consuming. And that's why I don't coach right now. Because the one-on-one coaching takes so much time. And if I can't commit that time to someone, it doesn't make sense to, leave them hanging. So Sean probably realized, hey, this is a lot of work, and shut it down after I did it. So.
Yeah, 100%. I've got a couple coaching students that I'm doing now, and I'm realizing the amount of effort, and especially like to your point, it's like there's a lot of folks that will just do it and they don't really care about the outcome. But the folks that really care about their students, really care about the outcome. I mean, it's a lot more than that hour a week that you give. There's you're thinking about them, you're following up, you're touching, you're being accessible. I mean, you want to make sure that they succeed, and that's important. And I felt that with Sean, because after we talked in 2016. I was like, wow, that's a really, really cool thing. It's like, how do we do this? So I've been reaching out to Sean for a while, and he's like, hey man, I'd love to. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to be able to do it. I mean, he was so busy and integrated into Flip to Freedom, and so busy and integrated into his business, and, buying 300 plus houses a year and everything.
Right.
It's just a lot going on, which I get. And, but yeah, I was so damn jealous of that. Cause there's no better jump start. I think into what we're doing, so, which obviously it worked, right? Because you went from doing pretty well to really scaling up from 15 to 16.
100%. 16 was huge for us. I mean, it really showed us it was possible, and it was really exciting. But of course, I've got to say is, yes, it was exciting, but there's a lot of downtimes too. So anyone that's watching this, like, hey, I don't know what he did, that everything was perfect. It wasn't perfect. We just happened to have a good year, but there was months where, we had a negative in front of the number. So everyone watches these and assumes that, all of us trying to grow was just sunshine and rainbows all the time. No, it's not. So I just want people to realize that.
100%. I mean, the kind of Instagram effect, right? Where everyone just thinks that you're spending your days leaning on Lamborghinis and hanging out the beach. But
you gotta get me started at that.
No, it drives me crazy. And I think it's creating a whole generation of like false expectations. But because the person that owned that Lamborghini probably is working, and then the person leaning on it's trying to gather followers. But two different pieces
Yeah.
there. But so, hey, so explain to me kind of about, so in 2015, it was you and your wife, you know,
Yeah.
you guys were bootstrapping it, making it work, learning how to scale. And then 2016 is when you were saying, okay, well, now it's time to start hiring and start looking at this a bit different. Explain to me kind of how that looked, and then kind of what the hurdles and headwinds that you kind of ran into as you built that out.
Sure. I mean, scaling a business is never easy, right? So
No.
as you start hiring, you get a whole new set of challenges that you would never think that you have. And part of it is, did you hire too quickly? Can you afford to pay the person? That's so important. Now, an advantage that I had getting started is I had money coming out of my other business when I closed it down. I'm not really a spender. This is my work shirt, man. I mean, I wear a t-shirt to work. So I'm not a big spender. So like I would save that money. So I had the ability to hire a little quicker than I would recommend most people to do, just because most people are like, all right, I had a solid month, I'm going to hire. Well, you got to understand, as you put out a job application, somebody is potentially quitting their job to come work for you. And they have a mortgage, they have kids, they have all these bills, they need groceries. I don't take that lightly. And if I'm going to hire somebody, I'm going to make sure that I'm saying, if I have a bad month, I can still pay this person.
Sure.
So we started looking at this probably looking at hiring around February, March of 2016. Actually started our first hire for Dispo in Q2. So right at the beginning of Q2.
Okay.
But we were interviewing for all these positions at one time. Acquisitions, we were interviewing for leads, and we were interviewing for dispositions. Now, I strongly do not suggest doing that. I was spending all of my days in interviews trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
It's so time consuming. So my business took a huge dip because I was like, well, if I just find the right person, then we're gonna go up from there. But the problem was I was spending so much time in interviews, I was missing my follow-ups, everything like that. So we actually took a loss that month because of that. And I lost like 3 deals that were in escrow because of that too. And it was really tough. But luckily I got the first hire on, which happened to be a good friend of mine I brought on. Of course, you always got to hire your friend first, right? Because that just seems like the right thing to do. Later, we'll say how bad that turned out. But yeah, he came on board, jumped right into the Dispo role. I picked up the acquisitions, got it going again, got our lead manager in, and then got the acquisitions in. And once we got everybody on board, we realized it wasn't just hiring. Now we got to train these people.
On board.
We got to hold them accountable. We have salaries. We got all this stuff. And all of a sudden I'm just like, oh my God, what did we do? And that's about the time where I'm like, all right, transferring money from my personal account to the business to make sure that we're profitable. I've always been a risk taker. So for me, I said, you know what? I'm going to make this work. And I transferred, I think, 6 figures into that business. And I said, it's either gone or it's going to work. Whatever, I'll make more. So went for it. And it turned out really well. We actually did, by the end of 2016, we had 2 acquisitions people on. We had our leads manager and a VA as a backup leads manager. We had our dispositions as well. But we hit 1.5 million wholesale fees in 12 months.
Wow,
so
that's huge.
It took off quickly.
Yeah, I mean, 1.5 in wholesale fees in 10 months, really, because 2 of those months you were,
That's true. Yeah. And I mean, we took a loss 3 of those months. So, I mean, when you look at it and say, hey, it's not all perfect. We took a loss 3 months and we still pulled that out. And December really pulled it out for us.
Nice.
So without December, man, it would have been a little bit of a different story.
Okay. Well, yeah, so that point you're starting to get legs. You've got the acquisition guys on the street. You got the Dispo folks kind of helping get the assets moved. Your lead managers hopefully taking the calls and handling follow-up and doing some of that stuff, keeping folks warm, doing all the steps that's necessary. So now you're kind of catching stride a little bit. So you hired, I guess, your best friend or one of your close friends as an initial employee. It sounds like there's a pretty good story there. But so let's talk about this. So 2015, it's just you and your wife hammering the phones, doing everything, wearing all the hats. 2016, Q2, you get Dispo hired shortly after that, lead manager hired shortly after that, acquisition, and an acquisition person. Starting to catch stride, right? So let's talk about would you have done it the same way if you could do it again? And what real issues did you come into that you learned from that you could apply it going forward?
I would probably spread those hires out a little bit. I probably would have gotten one fully trained up and then planned on, a month or two later, getting the next one trained up. So I probably would have spread that out. I think it was it was a good learning experience to do that. Because the thing is there's tribal knowledge, right? So, and given I wasn't in the business that long, but I knew how I did things and it was all right here.
Yeah. You didn't have systems and processes documented or anything. Yeah.
Like I didn't have automated Podio. I didn't have like any of this stuff like ready to go. You don't just click a button and all this stuff happens. It was all manual and it was all in my head. And that's what I realized. Like now I have so many systems set up and I've got processes documented. I would probably start documenting processes prior to hiring next time. If I could go back and do it again, that's exactly what I would do. Document these things. You need to pull this knowledge out of your head and start getting it on paper. And then as you train people, they have the ability to look at something and actually have something versus they're standing in line at your door and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get anything done today. It's hard. So I would definitely go back and change that for sure. I would say like some of our biggest trials, and I know a lot of people kind of run into the same thing, is just, it's a roller coaster, right? Everything is up and down and everyone thinks that business is just, you keep going up and up and up. And if you see a dip, you fail. You're not failing. It just happens. Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen it in your business as well, but getting started, there's so many expenses. I was buying computers. We were buying desks. We had an office. We had to fill this stuff up. And you start looking at this, you're like, damn, this stuff's more expensive than I thought.
Oh yeah.
And I could have lost my motivation on the months I took a loss. I could have done that, but I didn't. I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this around because I am not going to give up. Right. So the mindset when you take a loss, thinking in your head, hey, God, I failed. These people are going to lose their jobs. Right. It's tough. Man, I started feeling the stress from it. I swear I gained like 1,000 more wrinkles after I started this business. Just because you start looking at it, you're like, man, I probably got 20 pounds attributed to that too. It just, you got a lot on your shoulders. And for anyone that's listening that has a lot on their shoulders, you're not alone. As you grow, it's different things. And I'll be honest, you may have a 10-pound weight when you get started, but you got a 50-pound weight 3 years in. It just happens, right? Your problems become bigger and more expensive as you grow.
Yep.
Your problems don't go away. And I always refer to it as business is a game of whack-a-mole, right? You're at the arcade and you're hitting that thing down and the next one pops up and you're just sitting here again. But you start to learn how to deal with things better as you go forward. And when you start looking at every problem, one thing that I am very good at is problem solving. So I can sit and look at something and say, okay, let's break down this problem and this problem. Most of them have a similarity of some sort.
Oh yeah.
So how can we put a process in place that I get my team to look at it without me involved and say, Scott, this came up. It's very similar to this problem that happened over here. So I think we should take the same approach with it. Are you good with that? Yes, I'm good with that. So once you start growing, you start realizing, don't look at every problem like a bomb just went off in your business.
Yeah.
And originally when I was starting and a problem came up, it's like everything shut down. I've got acquisitions, dispositions, leads, me, my wife, we're all sitting here like, oh my God, what do we do?
Yeah.
And literally the business stops. And now it's like a problem happens. Honestly, I'm in my office right now. I see someone looking in my window. So there's probably an issue going on right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm just going to keep talking here and they're going to solve it themselves. So that's what you kind of get as you start training a team and get somebody that's not just working for the business, but somebody that's invested in the business.
Yeah.
And those are the hardest employees to find. They really are. And I'd hire really slowly now, really slowly, because I don't care if you worked in an Amazon warehouse pulling orders and you're applying for a job that's $100,000 a year. I don't care what you did. I can train you, but are you teachable?
Yeah.
But my number one thing is, does my staff get along with this person? That's it.
Absolutely. So office culture is just bigger than I think anyone ever talks about. And when people hear it, especially initially, when they first are looking to hire, it sounds like that cliche term that's just thrown out there all the time. But to your point, it absolutely is not. The culture of the office, like if there's someone toxic in the office, the amount of loss associated with that is so great. And it's so easy to kind of look over and say, okay, well, yeah, it's fine. But the actual impact is so huge. I'll tell you what, I want to recap on a couple of those things because there were some really big pieces that came out of there. So the culture of the office, hiring slow. Yeah, the cost of hiring the wrong person is so detrimental because you actually have the expense of going on hiring that person, the time that you have to devote, the time that your team has to devote, train them up just to find out they're the wrong person in 90 days, 120 days is huge. And you get to start all over. You're talking 6 months down the road. Hopefully that second person's the right person, so the amount of time and energy lost for that is huge. So focusing on hiring the right person, out of the gate, one good way is to hire a recruiting company to help screen those folks. Really start looking into, personality testing, DISC testing, predictive index testing, things like that. So you can really understand like what the personality type is for that role that folks are getting hired into, like what it should be, what it typically would fall into. And does this person that you're bringing in fit that mold? So then now you're really looking at more of, do they do what they say they're going to do? Are they ethical? Are they moral? And will they fit the culture? It makes it a lot easier to pass that piece. And that's something that,
what's interesting is, so you say this and so do all of my friends, right?
Yeah.
DISC testing, you got to do it. I cut that out probably 2 years back.
Oh yeah.
And so I started realizing that one thing I am very good at is interviewing. As long as I can get the right people in the door, I can interview them. And I realized when I was looking at DISC testing, I was putting too much emphasis on it. And I was passing candidates that actually could have been really good, but I was stuck on that graph, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That was what I started realizing. And I actually cut it out and I love it. And all my friends say, you are nuts. What are you doing? This is literally the way to hire. And I agree, that's their way to hire. I think it's fantastic. I mean, there's multiple ways of doing things. So for most people, it works out really good. But in an interview with me, my interviews are not normal.
Okay.
Our goal is literally to trip up the candidates, trip them up, get them to stumble over their words. And first we sit down and say, hey, you nervous? They're always going to say yes. And we say, it's okay to be nervous. Just kind of shake yourself out. We're friends. We're just sitting here having a conversation. That's all it is. And I tell them right then, I don't care about your strengths. I don't care about your weaknesses. I will know what they are by the end of this interview. And they're kind of like, oh, okay. And we just start in and we make everybody come in and bring us something to sell. Bring us something to sell. I don't care what it is. And most people, they bring a pen.
Sure.
And I mean, that's it. But the thing is our goal, I don't care how good you are at it. Our goal is to literally trip you up. I am going to trip you up on your sale and I'm going to make you go, oh my God, I literally lost this job right now. That's what you're going to be thinking in your head. But all I care about, because a seller is going to trip them up when they go to a house, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All I care about is, can this person, as I'm kicking them out of the house, right? Can they come up with one more shot? Can they take that one opportunity and try to recover themselves? And man, most people, no. But we still continue the interview. I'm not kicking them out of the office, right? But I want to see is, as that seller's saying, your offer is too low, get out. And you're walking towards the door with that seller, can you try one last, hey, how about this? And we've had the people that have done that, and those are the people I have sitting out here right now. And we have not had anyone turn in notice now in 2.5 years.
That's fantastic.
No one has left in 2.5 years. Now,
I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I was just going to say that when we did DISC testing, we had much higher turnover, but my interviews were different because I focused more on the DISC.
Yeah. So what I would guess is you're probably really good at reading the psychology of the person that you're interviewing. So you're probably better than I am. Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that you're better than most folks. And in addition to that, obviously, like if you're analyzing that data beforehand and you're kind of pre-screening, so you're kind of setting your stuff aside, your thought process aside. Well, we ran into hurdles with that initially a bit too. What we do is, we'll do a phone interview because pretty quickly we can determine if someone's a no-go right out of the gate on the phone. Then bring them in the office. We'll do a full-on interview, get a really good feeling, go through all of that stuff. And then as like kind of a secondary phase, then we'll do the DISC test to make sure that our analysis of who they are and what they are is in line with kind of the personality profiling, and use this like as a secondary piece, and then kind of
Yeah.
revert back. But
That's really smart.
Yeah,
Really
that works for us, and it makes it so that, you know, folks can kind of get through the hiring process pretty early. So like if our office manager or my business partner, John, or someone can interview them and feel, or our head of sales can get comfortable with them, get the disc test. And then it's like, okay, yeah, they've passed all three of these, look over it, and you meet with them. It's like, okay, so now I'm more digging into kind of culture and ethics and things like that. And my guess is you trying to trip them up is probably a good way for you to dig deeper and get past that facade that people try to put up so you can get that psychological profile. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, 100%. It's not like we're being mean to them. Our goal is just to see how, because people, you got to admit in this business, I mean, sellers call and yell at us. Leads get yelled at all the time. You have to have strong skin, right? And then you look at people at the houses. You're literally the away team stepping into someone that has home field advantage. And
every time.
Yeah, you're in there and you're trying to win, but not make them felt like you won. So it takes a specific person to do that.
Absolutely.
But hiring's fun. I love hiring. Hiring is a good time. I love hiring when people show up for interviews. But people don't show up for interviews, man, it pisses me off.
There's no hiring. Yeah. Well, that's great. So going back, so you hired all these folks out of the gate. The biggest piece initially as you're looking through it and as you were first starting to scale was, hey, I need to make sure that I've got enough money in the bank, or I've got the confidence I've got enough income coming in that I can pay this person so that they're not quitting their job, coming to work for me, and in 2 months I can't afford them. So for you, it was having the cash in the bank, ongoing operations, whatever it might be, making sure that you have that comfortability that that's there, and then staggering those hires so that you have the ability to onboard or train or have someone on your team that can do so to be able to hand some of that stuff off.
100%.
And then psychologically or analyze them on the interview, feel really good about it, get them out there, and then, you know, put them in place. And then the biggest piece that you kind of touched on that almost no one does, that's huge, is defining their systems and processes. Just bullet point them out, you know, at the least say, hey, here's what's expected. So at least they can kind of say, okay, well, I can check these different tasks off as I'm going through the process. And have something to look back on. And, you know, that's a big thing that we do. We build the workflow chart so we can know kind of who's responsible for what step along the way. That was just a hugely transforming piece of our business as we were growing. And I guess it's probably very similar to you and a lot of the folks that we talked to. It really kind of came out of the traction rollout. Did you guys do a traction rollout or anything along those lines?
We didn't do a traction rollout. Actually, I just literally read the traction book probably like 2 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, people have told me about it. And I used to be a big reader. And then I just kind of fell off. And I'm like, man, I just really don't want to sit and read books. And I'm like, I finally said to myself, I'm like, I have to grow myself too outside of masterminds and stuff. And I need to do it. So I read that book and I'm just like, how did I not read this years ago?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's an amazing book, but yeah, there's so many things that I'm still trying to implement from that. But I was actually surprised on how many things I actually already do. Maybe not 100%, but even 70% without reading the book. Right. So I was actually really impressed. I'm like, damn, we've actually got a lot of those systems in place somewhat, but we need to put them more in place. So we're working on that. A lot of different things we're doing. 2020 is going to be a very organized year for us based on that book.
No, that's terrific. Well, let me know, because we've got a super in-depth kind of weekly KPI tracking that we use for traction, and then kind of apply the to-dos and the rocks and the issues list and all of that stuff. So we've got a pretty damn cool Google sheet that we use for all that if you're looking for something to jumpstart it all.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that sounds great.
We had a traction implementer come in about 2.5 years ago, and it was just revolutionary for what we do. You know, because as you know, in our business, we've got the residential wholesaling side. Back then, we had rehabbing. We've got we have a fair amount of residential rentals. We owned a property management company that we sold off to another group here in town. We've got the senior living side, and then we've got our commercial rental properties that were growing out. So we've got and the brokerage. I forgot about brokerage. We have all these different business sectors, and it would be unbelievably difficult to be able to kind of manage each one of those and look at those and analyze them and keep up with it without having the kind of traction system where you could have a weekly or biweekly high level meeting where you're analyzing everything. Everyone's responsible for their set key performance indicator. And you can kind of get ahead of the problems pretty early by seeing kind of what's coming down and then kind of process them through with the team. So yeah, I think that's going to be, of course, you know, your business is really successful. So it's not crazy to think that you wouldn't already be implementing a lot of that stuff. But, and also given that, you know, Sean was kind of a key indicator for you kind of getting trained up and getting going, and then the circles that we run in, and everyone's kind of talking about the same stuff. So a lot of it just probably comes through, you know, osmosis or something along those lines. But, you know, but I think once if you really roll it out and do the weekly meetings and do the process like it's, you're going to see awesome things.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Because I mean, it's like I may see a 20% increase in revenue, you know, doing something like that. Because right now I do feel like all my entities have meetings. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m., I have a meeting for each entity each morning. So we have that set. We talk about that. We set action items. Notes are taken. They're distributed. We look at that, but we don't have more of those quarterly. Hey, here are our bigger rocks that we need to take care of. And it's just, here's what needs to be done by next week. Here's what needs to be done by next week. You didn't do it? Well, darn. All right, do it. That type of thing.
Right. One more week.
The accountability we have to have and the bigger projects we have to have. So yeah, that's going to be a big deal once we start really getting that implemented in the business.
Terrific. Well, and one of the things that we were just talking about before the call here, before the podcast, was kind of what the future holds for you in regards to like net worth growth and passive income growth and whatnot. So, you know, I think that the traction model will help exponentially with that, but kind of, if you don't mind, dig into that a little bit. What do you see 2020 holding in regards to that? Kind of
I mean, for me, I want to have that passive income to pay for my lifestyle. I think it was Grant Cardone I was listening to one time where, you know, every time you listen to his things, you're just like, oh man. But I was watching him and he was talking about the passive income, and he was talking about how people spend so much money based on their day job type of thing, and they're not spending it off passive income. And it's just, you know how you listen to something and you already know it, right? You know it's the right thing to do, but somebody says it and it's just like, it just hits with you. And I said, I can't believe Grant Cardone of all people are the one hitting with me on this. Dude, this guy's a smart dude. Just some of the stuff he says drives me nuts. But he's a good dude and he knows what he's doing. And when he said that, you know, he buys his stuff off of passive income. And I said to my wife, I said, man, we're going to have a big change next year. We're going to start getting we're going to look poor. I'm going to put everything through IRA investing. We're going to literally change everything we're doing, and we're going to have passive income like crazy. We're going to pay for our entire lifestyle the way we want it to be with passive income by the end of 2020. And that is my goal. And I know it can happen, but I've done things a little different, like versus buying the rental properties. I've opened up other businesses, right? So I've got my skip tracing company, a cold calling company. That is passive income to me as well, because that's not my primary business. I did that business to have the additional income doing things.
Sure.
And so those are almost project businesses, I guess, if you can call it. But they make money they can pay for their lifestyle. But it also is the same realm of, you know, wholesaling and doing things like that. So if we ever do see that big dip in the economy that comes, you know, at that point, that business is also going to trend down with this one. Passive income through rentals and things like that, using BRRRR method or doing anything like that, you can start getting those built up. So that sticks around.
Sure.
And that's ultimately where I want to go with it. And 2020 is going to be a very big year. It's going to be a very big adventure for me as far as stepping into something else again that I have not done. And guys like you are like, it's so easy. I'm like, man, I wish it was, but it's just learning something new. And now I got to step in and I got to do that. And it's time to start getting that passive income built up. So my lifestyle is set. And if I decide one day I don't want to come do this anymore, I don't have to.
Absolutely.
I got everything set.
No, that's an amazing goal. And hell, it's not easy. We all know that. It's just, you know, it's just like anything else. But the good news is now you got a goal, right? So now you can reverse engineer it and say, okay, well, we've got 13 months now to figure out what that looks like to get, I don't know, 100 and something thousand a year in passive income. So you can kind of live whatever lifestyle that you want, and okay, well, let's see what that, what's it look like,
Mm-hmm.
and then just
Yeah.
back into it, and how many rentals you got to buy, and what's it, blah blah blah. So I mean, it's
Agreed.
100% doable, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'll be there, but it's certainly not easy, right? It's just scaling like anything else, just building it out, and
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and obviously you've got the other businesses, so that is the passive income. I think the big piece that's missed is probably like the actual net worth growth. Knowing that that asset's getting paid down every month. One of the coolest
Yeah.
things that I look at on an annual basis, like, so at year end just always sucks when you own a bunch of real estate, right? 'Cause you got all of your real estate taxes that are due, and
Yeah.
you're kind of consolidating everything. You've got to go back and like do all these CAM charge reimbursements, all this stuff that you've got to deal with. Yeah, for us, we appeal real estate taxes at year end. So not only do you have to pay the big checks, but you also have to do all of the document process for appealing them and all that. But one of the coolest things that our accountant does for us is she actually or actually our controller, but she compiles and shows us how much debt we paid down for the year, which is a
Oh, that's
really
nice.
cool number to see.
Yeah.
So like so like maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago was the first time that she gave it to us, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I mean, obviously the assets are depreciating a little bit, like truly depreciating, not tax return depreciation, but like, there's some wear and tear. But at the same point though, like to see like, oh man, I paid $40,000 down in debt. That's like $40,000 going in a savings account less some level of actual wear and tear. And it's like, okay, well, the next year it's 70,000, 100,000. You're like, wow, that's cool. Like I wouldn't even have thought about it. It's just like a little bit of an upside blip that you see kind of at that time. And now that we're in the commercial world, like that number is growing fast, and it is really cool to see. So a little bonus coming your way as you're going into this. It's awesome.
And that's always money you're going to have forever. I mean, when you start looking at that and saying, yeah, you paid $40,000 down in debt. Now at that point, do you take it? Do you do a refinance? Do you put it into other stuff? Or do you just take that money forever? And there's so many different ways people do those things. And I mean, that'd be great you want to go retire and sell everything at that point? There you go.
Well, yeah, and that's per year, it's just kind of tick, tick, tick. So that's exactly it. We're more on the conservative side. We're saying, okay, well, yeah, let's let it go and just know that, hey, that's just compounding. Boom, 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 knocking down. Or take a line of credit against it, and now you've got a big sloth of funds you can put towards the next asset or whatever it might be. But it's cool. It's really, really cool. Well, cool, man. Well, as we kind of wrap this up, I don't take too much time, and it's been a fantastic conversation. Let me ask you this. So like, you've been really successful and you've been able to scale really quickly, and it's been awesome to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of in the circles that we run and the groups, super group, and a lot of these other groups that we're kind of involved in, right? There are folks that are really successful, but that's 5% of the group out there that are doing kind of what we do. What do you think it is that's really sets you apart? Like, what do you think is that thing that you do 1 or 2% better every single day that really is the differentiator that sets you apart and puts you on a different level?
I mean, for me, I would say I have to go back to my team a little bit because I went a little different direction. Like a lot of people say, oh, we need to work on the customer service with our sellers, and that's going to be number one or something like that.
Yeah.
I focused on my team. And by focusing on my team, I know we're giving customer service to the sellers. I know we're doing the follow-up we need to do, because let's be honest, the majority of our deals come from follow-up. So if you don't have it all centers around that team, right? And if you don't have that team in place that actually can do that,
sure,
you're setting yourself up for failure. And I know so many people that just hold people too long, right? Like, oh my gosh, this person's not doing what they need to do, but they'll turn around eventually. Get rid of them. And we have a team in place where I know that stuff is being ran. I know that they're making the decisions that would be the best interest for me, right?
Sure.
And that is so important to me. And I think we set ourselves apart by putting people in the office that literally care. And when they care about the seller, they come to me and say, hey, we need to offer moving money to the seller. We need to help them out. We need to offer that. We call it our concierge service to these sellers. And that service, I mean, people love it because it's, hey, we'll pay for if you got a tenant in there, we will go find your tenant a new place. We'll help them get approved for it. We'll pay their application fees. We'll drive them around to places. We'll have movers come in and pack for them and get their stuff moved. All these different things that we can do to try to help people out, that sets us apart. But all of it is focused on team, everything. So if you get that one thing fixed and that one thing built, you're going to go from there. Everything is going to be upwards. But
That's awesome.
if you got a problem, I consider my team's my foundation, right? We do houses. You got a house with a foundation that's crumbling. What happens to the house, right?
Bad things.
It's going to eventually collapse. It's going to crack. It's going to be gone. So for me, my foundation is there. And I know so many friends that have succeeded and they've done a great job. They've done a different direction. They focus on customer service, number one, their team comes number two, and they've been very successful. But for me, what's been successful is making sure that I have that foundation of a team in place so we can move forward and grow as fast as possible. I mean, this year we got Portland on there now. We got Washington. We've got Texas. We would never be able to do that. I literally said, hey, who wants to go to Texas? I had a guy say, I'll move. Literally put him on a plane, got him an apartment. He's there. If I didn't have a team that was devoted, he wouldn't have done that. But he said, man, I get an opportunity to basically go run a franchise of this business. Sold.
Let's do it. Man, that's huge. Actually, I had it down. I don't know if the camera can see that. Implementer. I had it down for you as operations. I mean, you just do, and you clean it up, and you make it happen. And, I feel like that's a thing that I've loved to watch and hear is kind of the operations side of your business and what you've been able to do. Obviously. That's
what I enjoy. I mean, you nailed it 100%. I mean, you know, my friend Joe, you're friends with Joe Taylor as well. Good dude, good friend of mine. And I stepped in and I'm taking over the operations of his business because I am an operations person and he is a deal person. He is one of the smartest people I've ever met when it comes to creative deal structure and literally deals you and I would walk away from every day. He will find some way to make $100,000 off that thing. But that is what he is so good at. He's good at the numbers and figuring that out. That's not me. For me, I'm going to build the team, train the team, make the team successful. And him and I together, we fit very well with that. So I've stepped in to help him out with that side. And then he's going to come into my business and start doing more of that creative stuff. So we've incentivized each other to help each other out. And that's definitely where I fit, right? And I love that role though. It makes me happy to see something grow and say, man, I didn't do it all, but I had a part in that. And it's exciting to see.
Oh man, that's huge. That's exactly it. I mean, obviously hard work, obviously caring about your team, caring about all the folks you're bringing in, having the concierge service, you know, you're giving back, you're adding value, you know, all of those are offshoots. All those are important pieces, but you can't have that without the operational piece, the implementer piece, the kind of rolling that out and making sure that it's being run properly throughout that process. That's huge. That's a huge takeaway for the folks that are listening too. You know, everyone's going to have a different thing, a different superpower, something that makes them great. And it's not the same for everyone. Like you said, Joe can go out there and do his deals and he'll be really successful doing his thing, but he needs an operator. For you, you're saying, okay, well, operations, I can run a fantastic team. I can build a great foundation. My guys are going to do, my folks are going to do X, Y, and Z. Let's go. And if they start to lack, you know, cut the bait. They're out, and we got to get someone else in because now you've got a weak foundation. If someone's not pulling their weight, if someone's not rowing in the right direction, time to move. You know.
Yeah.
That's huge, my man. Well, cool. Thank you very much for coming on. Anything that I can do to help you? Anything that you need, or anything that's worth talking about before we close this thing down?
Man, I mean, you've always offered me support. You and Jonathan both. You guys been good friends and definitely helped me out with a ton. Nothing off the top of my head, but as I start my portfolio next year, you're my call. So
always here, brother.
You on that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, my man. Well, thanks again. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. Hey guys, as always, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Bottleneck Real Estate Virtual Assistants. These guys are fantastic. We've been using them for years in our business. They've really helped us scale. They can handle really any task related to real estate, whether it be for the investing side, real estate agents, lenders, but specifically we use them for our contract to close process, our transaction coordination, also for phone and email correspondence. We really use them for working with the insurance company, working with utility on and offs, dealing with anything in our CRM, graphic design. I mean, really anything that you can need, they work really, really well with that. And the also really big benefit this group has is they help with onboarding and tracking for that process. So they've got folks here locally in the States that can help build out some of your systems and processes, whether it be contract to close or contract coordination, kind of define the different steps that are necessary when the virtual assistant needs to contact who on that process. And then also the folks here can kind of set you up with a tracking system so that the virtual assistants are responsible for updating the tracking forms, providing those tracking forms to you to make sure that everything is going smoothly and staying on course. Probably one of the best pieces that this group can really do for you. But hopefully you guys like them as much as we do. If you want to get in touch, it's bottleneckrealestate.com, bottleneckrealestate.com, and I think you will be very happy with them. If you got some good quality content out of that, if you think it would help anybody, please go to iTunes or SoundCloud or whoever you're listening to this on and subscribe to the podcast. Also, please give us a 5-star rating. It really helps get us out there. If you do subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, take a screenshot of it, email it over to info@robertheyder.com, Robert, Heyder.com, and register for you guys to win a free one-on-one coaching session with myself or one of our guests. They were nice enough to give up some of their time, so thank you for that. Also, please follow us on social media, Robert_Heyder at Instagram, Robert_Heyder at Instagram. We'll drop some really quality content there. Also, I almost forgot, if you guys want a free commercial real estate guide and commercial real estate analysis tool, just go to the website, robertheyder.com, fill out that brief little form, and we'll email that over to you. It's a really, really good tool just to be able to analyze deals quickly, understand kind of what's going on, see if it's actually a deal. All right, guys, thanks. Until next one. Scott Oots, man, what a stud. This dude just, started out in 2015 or so and just came from not doing hardly any real estate to really scaling up super fast. Really, really impressive. Now he's doing, 200 or so deals in numerous markets in 2019. I know this guy pretty well. He's fantastic at really implementing. I mean, he's got fantastic operational skills. He really digs into hiring and firing and how he kind of goes about it, systems and processes. A big takeaway I see from this episode, from this interview, is how and when he builds the systems, and processes and implements them prior to hiring, which is a big piece. I don't think many people talk about that. Talk about the traction implementation, kind of how he's been doing it and what he's getting ready to roll out with traction. We've been doing traction for a long time. It's been monumental for our business. Can't say enough fantastic things about it. But the single biggest takeaway from this episode is the fact that you got this stud doing crazy amounts of business out of California and, top line, multi-million-dollar revenue. And he's going to make a tweak into 2020 into his business where he's going to start building out passive income, and they're going to change their lifestyle, live poor, for lack of better terms, and live solely on the passive income to force his position, which I think is unbelievable. Can't say enough cool things about that. So I look forward to having him on, into 2020 and see how it's going, and hopefully he can kind of show and give us a case study on how to do it and how others can learn to do that. Well, stay tuned to the next episode. We've got some great folks, and look forward to seeing you. Thanks for tuning in to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast.